Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm kicking off a brand new video series about the Yu-Gi-Oh! Genesis format and what I want to change about the Genesis format and the suggestions I have for the future Pointlist update that will be in December 2025. I'm really excited for this one because we're going to break down everything. I made 3 parts for this video. The first part will be looking into decks that need a hit and that are like really strong in the meta, and how Konami could tune down their strength a bit. In part 2 we will take a look at the decks or the engines that need some freedom, that need to get their points a bit lowered and have a bit more freedom to play, and will be in the result hopefully a bit stronger. And in part 3 I will go over the non-engine cards that should be changed, and I also have big changes in mind for that, also the problem withdrawal and stuff like that, right? I will also talk about that in part 3. So if you're in Genesis format discussions, competitive theory, and if you like Genesis format, it would be really cool if you subscribe to my channel and you leave a video a like, and also tell me in the subscription, in the comments, what you think about my takes that I have. And part 1 we will have today, and the other 2 parts will be uploaded in the next few days. And please subscribe so you won't miss them. Let's start with the Radiant Typhoon deck. I think Radiant Typhoon is a really cool deck, and I think also a deck like this that can have like a good back and forth has a spot to be in Genesis. So I really don't think this deck needs to be killed. I think though it's a bit too strong if it has like no points on its engine at all, because it is highly splashable. You can use it to have it, even Metas uses it, right, in the normal TCG as an engine, but you can also use it in the Genesis format as a rank 3 engine, and you can go into Goblin Biker stuff, and I think it's too strong if you can just splash it everywhere because it's like 0 points. So, and I also think the deck is a modern deck. It's from 2025. It has a kind of a higher power level. I don't think it should be able to like use 100 points on non-engine. We have like some small hits on the extra deck cards already, and I also want to give the deck some more hits so it's not that easily splashable, and also a bit more expensive to play, so you won't be able to easily use the non-engine that you can like easily play. Just put in Pot of Greed and go for whatever. So I'd like to give Sven and Eldam each 5 points, because those are their starters. Those are the cards that can be splashed into other decks and give the deck a lot of power. So I want to see them, if they want to be played, like 5 points are reasonable. You can still play the deck easily, but you have to cut 30 points of non-engine for the deck if you want to play all of them at free. So it's a bit more hard to play the deck, but I think this is a reasonable hit because the deck is like everywhere and way too strong. And I don't want to kill the deck, and I don't think it will kill the deck. And 5 points for Eldam and 5 points for Sven, which are both like their stars and should be played at free if you want to play the deck, is reasonable. So it's not splashable that easily anymore, and you have to play it more like pure. And speaking of pure, the deck is paired with the Runic engine. I do think the Runic engine can provide some unhealthy gameplay because of the draw engine that you can play on top of it. So if you play like Pot of Greed with the Runic engine, it can become really unfair, and also the milling stuff from the Runic engine can like hurt. Yeah, the engine is severely hit in this format, but I think if you want to play Runic Pure, that should be fine and be possible, but it shouldn't be that easy to splash it just into Radiant Typhoon. So what I would do is just give it a small slap on the wrist so it won't be that easy splashable in the pure Radiant Typhoon deck. Give Tip 3 points and Fountain 3 points. Just 3 points on both those cards. And because Fountain is like the thing that makes Runic unfair, the normal spells are not that unfair, the pop and stuff like that. I think you should be able to splash those cards, but Tip is like the strong card because it searches everything, and Fountain is like the strong card. Just give them some points. The 3 points on them are fine, I think, and then the deck is balanced, and now you have to decide, do I want to play a Runic Engine? Do I want to play more non-engine? Do I want to play Pot of Greed? So you have to make more decisions in the Radiant Typhoon deck with this points update, and you're not just easily splash in everything and then, yeah, just play with no mind, and you don't have to think about the cards that you spend your points on. So with this update, you finally have to, yeah, be a bit more creative with Radiant Typhoon and deck building. Let's now talk about Onomat. I think Onomat is kind of a big problem now for the Genesys format. It's also, I think, one of the strongest decks with the strongest end board. And yeah, it kind of has some points already, but I do think it still needs some more points on its cards. And because the board that it produces, it's just not fair. If you go second, you cannot break those boards. And I had some different ways I want to approach this deck. I definitely don't want this deck to be able to play a lot of non-engine. So if you play this deck, it will be a glass cannon deck. So it's really bad going second, but good going first. So you can only like break boards with your engine and like free non-engine cards. So the first thing I want to see is Onoma pick up to 10 points, because this one searches you the other Onomat card that's 33 points, but I think this is like a reasonable hit to the deck, so it won't be that cheap anymore. I don't think you have to touch the Dodo Warrior. I think Onoma pickup is like the better card to hit. And I also want to see F-Zero Utopic Future Sexel to 5 points, because this one can be really dumb if you have it on the field, because it can protect your floodgates and also can protect your cards from being targeted and being destroyed. So I think this card is actually kind of strong, and having it at 5 points makes it like a decision if you want to play it and not an auto include. So I think this needs some points. And I also don't want to see them having the XY unbreakable XYZ barrier for free or the numbers protection. They can search those cards, and I don't think they should be able to do that for free, because adding those to your hand board can be super harmful, because it just makes them, as the card Unbreakable XYZ barrier says, unbreakable, because you cannot use board breakers on them. So I think you should be able to use board breakers on those. So I also want to have some points on this card, so they have to decide if they get a engine that's more expensive, that if they can like easily play them also. So I want to see at least 3 points on this card, and I also want to see some points on 7th Tachyon. The 7th Tachyon should also be like 3 points, so it doesn't hit other decks as hard, but it will hit Onomat more, because now they have to decide what they want to play and what is still worth it to play, and they cannot auto include like the 7th Tachyon. So if we count like the mandatory points of the deck, we have Onomatopyra at 33 points. Then if we add the 21 points from the Dodo Warrior, we are already at 54 points. Then if we add the points from Onomato Pickup, if we give it 10 points, it will be already at 84. Then if they want to play an F-Zero, they will be have another 20 points, so they will already be at 104 and have to cut some cards. It's now also more like hard to include now the counter trap and the 7 Tachyon, because they're at 3 points then, and it's also harder to include like non-engine, and it's also harder to include the other F-Zero topic Future Sextal, because it's also at 5 points. So I think this would like severely hit the power of the deck and brings it down to earth. And it won't be a huge problem for the Genesis format then anymore if we bring points to this deck, but it still remains playable as a tier 2 deck. Let's now talk about Punk. Punk was also a deck that got on the Genesis Invitational to the top 8. It's in YCS Anaheim, and I think it should also get some more points. The thing with Punk is it's a horrible deck if you go second, and it's a really strong deck if you go first. And it can also play like a lot of hand traps, and it needs to play a lot of hand traps, because if it cannot play a lot of hand traps, you won't be able to play like into boards with this deck, because one pop on Xiamin can like end the turn if they go second. So it's kind of hard to hit the deck, but I think it's the right point to go to the non-engine, that it can be played and give some more points to its engine, so it won't be able to easily play like the cheapest non-engine. Also, if we make like Fuvalos and something like Brulia cheaper to play and other hand traps more expensive like Droll, if we maybe do that, we also have like the thing that if they play hand traps that are not good going first, it just hurts them a bit more, because they draw a lot of cards in their combo. So them having hand traps on top of the board is like the usual thing, because they draw like 3 cards in their combo. So I think it's a good thing to give this some points, but you have to do it a bit smart, because every card in the deck searches other cards. So if you give one card just a lot of points, this wouldn't really change a thing, because they would just cut 2 copies of it and then just play one of it and search it with the other card. So I think we have to give several cards some points. I'd like to give Ogre Dance 3 points because it's a searcher, give Armin 3 points, and also Rising Scale 3 points. So those are all cards that they usually play at 3, and if they still want to play it at 3, they now have to spend 27 points, which they cannot use on non-engine then anymore. So if we added then to the other 5 points that we have for the engine, like 15 points they already have to spend for the Foxy tune, they will have a higher amount of points and cannot afford like the super high class and super strong hand traps, and yeah, have to get to some cheaper hand traps, which won't be as harmful if they have them going first. Another deck that got top 8 at YCS Pittsburgh is the Vanquish Soul deck, and but I don't think it needs a huge hit or anything. It already has like a lot of points on its engine. I think it's in a super fine spot and doesn't have to be hit again. The only thing that will hit the deck is if we increase the points of 7th Tachyon. So the 7th Tachyon hiring of 3 points is also a hit to the Vanquished Soul deck. So we have a hit for Onomat and Vanquished Soul at the same time. So it's efficient. I think Dracotail could maybe also get a slight hit. It also performed pretty well and got top 8 in YCS Pittsburgh in the Genesis Invitational. I don't think it needs a huge hit though. It already has like super high point costs and can play nearly no non-engine. And the only thing that I want to give some points is maybe Flame 5 points, because Flame can also be splashed into other decks and give it like an easy spell negate that is free. So yeah, I think Flame should get 5 points in the next points list update, so it cannot be like in every side deck to be able to negate easily board breakers. And yeah, also this would hit Dracotail because they want to play one flame, but it wouldn't hit it the most because they don't have to play like 3 to negate stuff. But I think 5 points of flame is reasonable, so they have to maybe cut 1 Molulu from their deck, and this would hit the deck also a bit, because it's already like actually high points, so they cannot cut non-engine, they have to cut some of their engine to still play like the flame. Let's talk now about Artmage. Artmage also was in the top 8 of the Genesis Invitational, and I think in general it's a super strong deck, but it has a lot of weaknesses. It loses against Ogre, it loses against Nibiru, so it's also hard for it to go second, but if it goes first and has a board and on top of that hand traps, this could be a harmful thing. And it's also a powerful deck. It can also, if it's so low, it has like 0 points on its engine. It can also play like cards like Crossout Designator, but because it has like clear defined weaknesses, but to counter them, they can just use Crossout Designator, right? So I think the engine needs some points higher so that they cannot play like the free hand traps that they want. And the problem is, how do we do it? How do we hit the Artmage deck without killing it? Because every card in the Artmage deck can, yeah, search every card in the Artmage deck. So it's kind of hard to hit it. Because if we hit like Medius, they will just play like one Medius. So we kind of have to put every Artmage card to some points or hit a card that they have to play. I think it's a good thing. It could be a good thing to go for Artmage Academic Arcane Arts Acropolis, like the field spell. If we just give this thing 20 points, it will do two things. Now they have to decide, do I want to play still free field spell and then spend like 20 points and 60 like 60 points on it and like cut all the non-engine? I don't think people would do that. They would just play one then. So they have to spend the 20 points on that. If it gets outed, they have to get it maybe back with Litera. It also decreases their consistency of the deck. So I think it's a reasonable hit to go for Artmage Academic Acropolis to give this just 20 points. So the deck can still be played. They can still play like crossout. So they maybe can just only play one target for the crossout, not like two. So it will decrease the consistency. It will decrease the power level if that has 20 points on the Acropolis, but it still remain like playable and still be like a top tier deck, I think, with this change. For the Superquantum deck, I don't think we need a huge hit. I do think it's alright if we just touch it a bit. And I think the one thing that does make Superquantum super unfair is the Great King Magnus that they can build going first, which is like a floodgate that lets you not search and it's also unaffected. And I think that's like the super unfair thing. But Super Quantum can also build like different boards. They can also end on multiple XYZs and do other stuff. So I think it's fine to just give some points to the Magnus. I would say like 20 or 25, something like that. So it's a decision if they want to play Magnus or just want to play super strong non-engine and just go for a different board that's more fair and more easy to break and then have hand traps on top of that. So I think it's if you want to touch it, we don't have to touch it a lot and give some points to the Magnus. So it's a decision if they want to play it and not an auto include, because it's like also it has big weakness. If the opponent has a kaiju, this is like a rather bad thing to end on, right? So they also have to decide if they want to end on it. If they get kaiju, they maybe lose if they don't have a lot of hand traps in their hands. So I think it's a better thing to push the deck a bit more in the right direction, to not end on the floodgate tower, to end more on diverse board. And if they also have like more points, if they play like a different version of the deck, it's also a good thing, I think. If we talk about Lunalight, I don't think the deck needs a super harsh hit, because if you play it pure, it kinda is not the greatest deck, but it doesn't have like a lot of points at all. So you can easily splash it into other decks and play together with, for example, Dracotail. So I think it should be it would be a good thing to give Lunalight some points. I think Liger Dancer is always the right card to get pointed in Lunalight. So I don't think you have to give it a massive amount of points, but I think 20 points could be fine. So it won't be easily speciable with the Dracotail deck, and you have to play it pure then. And you also have to decide if you want to play non-engine or you want to play one Liger Dancer or two Liger Dancers. So it's a bit harder to set up like two Liger Dancers. And if you do, you have to not you're not allowed to play a lot of non-engines. So I think 20 points for Liger Dancer could be enough to balance the deck out. I also think that the Odion deck actually got a huger hit than I thought before on the last points list update. It got 5 points to its field spell, which was not really the big hit, but a lot of the trap cards that were good, like counter traps, got a lot of points, and not a lot, but some points, which is a hit to the deck. And the pot of E going from 0 to 10 points was also a huge hit for the deck. So I don't think we have to touch the Odion deck a lot in this next upcoming list. But if everything gets hit, Odion will be like automatically better. So I think some points should be addressed to the Odion deck because it's still like really cheap with only 5 points on a field spell. So I think Man of the Mark or Man with the Mark should also get like 5 points. So just a slight increase for the Odion deck, but nothing drastically. Okay, let's now also talk about the unreleased decks because on the 4th of December there will be a new TCG Yu-Gi-Oh set, and I think two archetypes are playable in Genesis. One of the third archetype in the new deck building set I think is an archetype that's based on pendulum monsters, so it's not that relevant, but the relevant archetypes are Killer Tune and Hecahands. Let's first talk about Killer Tune. I do think Killer Tune is the stronger of those two archetypes, so I think it should have some pre-hits for sure, because if it doesn't, it's like really feels unfair, and I think it has to have some pre-hits to not really completely take over the format. And I think the pre-hits should be on Killer Tune Synchro, which is a quick play spell search and also synchro spell for the deck. I think this one should have 5 points in advance. And also, I think Killer Tune Clip should get 5 points. This is a hand trap which let you synchro summon in the opponent's turn. It's like an Izuna or a 5 mana, so this has to have some points from the beginning. Maybe 5 is too less points on this, but I think we have to see what the deck brings, but I don't want this to have like 0 points at all. It's not a really crazy deck. It's not like Dracotail strong, but if it has 0 points, it can be a problem. I also think that Killer Tune Red Seal should get 10 points. This is one of the extra deck monsters. This one has a floodgate effect because it says the levels of monsters your opponent controls with 1700 or less original attack are increased by 1. So this hits XYZ decks and also synchro decks by a lot. So I think this one should for sure have like points because it's a strong card. Also, it's like a monster effect negate. So 10 points on this is also deserved, I think. Hecahands, on the other hand, I don't think is like a ridiculous deck. I also think it's hard to play the deck pure. It doesn't have super much power. The only things that are, I think, a bit scary are like they have two traps they can set, which are both like a negate for a spell trap is one, and the other is a negate for a monster effect. But other from that, the deck doesn't look that scary, and also doesn't have like a turn 0 hand trap in its engine, so I don't think we have to hit this deck too much. I think everything evolves around the Hecahands search spell, which is called Hecahands. So I think this card should have like 5 points, which doesn't make the deck unplayable or anything, but I think this doesn't make the deck splashable, the Hacker Hands spell, so I think this should have 5 points. So if you played pure, this doesn't matter at all if you have like 15 points that you have to spend on the engine, but if you want to splash it, this will matter because you maybe want to have like another engine that also has points. So you have to decide, and it's not just for free a strong 2025 engine that you can play, but it's not as strong as Killer Tune. So I think Hacker Hands is like the only cards that should have points. Yeah. Thank you so much for watching the video. I'm really appreciating it if you're watching it to this point. And yeah, please leave in the comments what you think about the decks that I want to be hit, and what if you think it's like fair to hit them that hard, or if you think they shouldn't be hit that hard, and what you maybe want to change to for the hits, and maybe would you hit them different. Yeah, I would like to know that. Please write that in the comments. And also, if you're there, maybe you could also subscribe. That would really help the channel. And thank you for watching again, and stay tuned for part 2, which will be coming in a few days.